Okay, let's get the first discussion on the way this morning. We're starting with the one that has to do with the U.S. President Joe Biden, who, of course, was inaugurated yesterday alongside his vice, Kamala Harris. A lot of persons say this is a whole new page for not just the United States of America, but for the entire globe, because basically when most things happen in the U.S., they reverberate across the world. And then you're wondering, what exactly would it mean for countries, for allies of the US? So you can't take away the fact that in Africa, for example, as a continent, Nigeria is a very prominent ally and partner of the United States. Time and again, US ambassadors sent to this country have continually made that point even clearer by the day. But then a lot of persons are now just opposing the Trump administration and the Biden White House to see what essentially the marked differences will be. Going forward, we want to have that conversation on the program this morning, and then we'll kick the second one in no distant time. In between, we will take calls just to give you that opportunity for you to lend your voice and weigh in on the conversations we're having this morning on the program. Let me introduce my guest from my immediate left, Reverend Olu Martins, is a political analyst. Thank you for coming to join us this morning.
Thank you for having. I'm almost saying happy at my time because the weather is extra high.
Incidentally, started yesterday afternoon, at least where I live.
Yeah, it's a good one because where electricity, the national grid fails, nature kicks in.
And then we also have another gentleman on the program, Christopher Ojekiri, is a public affairs commentator. Thank you, Chris, for coming as usual.
Yes, good morning, and good morning, viewers.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm sure we all watched yesterday, or at least we all now know that there's a new government in place in the U.S. A guest on our program yesterday, one of the guests actually said it's a universal sigh of relief because he feels that for the first time, all of the eccentric manifestations that we've seen the last 4 years would at least be minimized to a very large extent, at least for the next 4 years, given the fact that between Trump and Biden, there's so much difference as far as temperaments are concerned. I want us to begin the conversation from there, Chris.
Yes, not just temperament, but policies also. Attitudes to nations that America has to do with and deal with. So there's so much between these two men. Political culture and all of that. And that is why you find that nations that have strategic partnership with America are rejoicing that the 46th president, Joe Biden, has at last successfully been sworn in, much against the kind of violence and the kind of turbulence that preceded the swearing in. So congratulations to Joe Biden to start with. I am more concerned right now with how that presidency relates to Nigeria and how Nigeria stands to benefit from that presidency. If not, America is very far removed from here. We are not Americans. The reason why nations are interested in other nations, has to do with their own interest as a nation. Right. How does the stability in America and how does the political progress in America affect your own nation? If not, you are going to turn it to the premiership thing that we have in Nigeria, where you have more supporters in Nigeria for the various clubs in Europe than you have in Europe itself, and it's not producing anything, with respect to the development of our football. So first, we have a more calm-tempered president in the United States of America, who has demonstrated that he is a non-racist. I think we have enough evidence now to begin to classify Biden as a non-racist. First, we have a vice president of color as his vice president chosen by his party and himself. And then I know for sure that right now as we speak, we have 3 Nigerians already in his cabinet, which have been appointed, the time he was president-elect and waiting. We already have 3 of them there, and that's kudos to Nigeria as, a strategic, partner in the African sub-region. So also, we have a president who has said that one of his missions is to ensure that he heals the much damage that Donald Trump has done to polarize America from all his friends and neighbors across the world. And we are hoping and believing he actually has little choice, in pursuing that agenda, because it is to the good of everyone. So it's mutual benefit to both America and Nigeria and other strategic partners of the U.S. that Biden is more reconciliatory and more, friendly as against Trump's isolationist policy of American first. American first as a policy wouldn't have been so evil if not that there's this racial element where Trump himself, happened not to have been able to overcome his racist sentiment and then had driven it to extremism. If not, it was supposed to be a patriotic call and a patriotic mobilization. I am looking forward to when a Nigerian president will start to talk of Nigerian first. We are too dependent, for all I know, on ideas from the World Bank, ideas from the United Nations. We seem to run on our country at the whims and caprices of whatever international agencies and organizations say. So we actually need a moderate Trump here, a benevolent Trump, if you like, who will think of Nigeria first and begin to think of Nigerian policy.
Without ethnic sentiments,
without
religious bigotry, for example.
Yeah, without bigotry, without ethnic sentiment. That's why I say a benevolent Trump. Now, and that's what I think we should begin to look at now. I am hoping that Nigeria will capitalize on this moment. Not that I expect that the leadership we have there are thinking this way or is thinking this way, but that is what we are hoping that they'll be thinking of. How does America benefit us? What is the strategic relationship we can develop with America? Egypt and China already have a strategic partnership, and that's a threat to us in Nigeria. And I don't know whether we are thinking that way. It's a threat because you have the three, superpowers, so to speak, of Africa, as Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt. And Egypt have long gone ahead to position themselves strategically. So much so now that Egypt, in collaboration with China, is dominating the North African market, and in fact exporting from Egypt into Europe. If we have the time, I'm going to give you that setup. And it is believed by experts that that strategic plan, of building the second Suez Canal by LCC, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who built a second Egypt Canal of about 78 kilometers that is now called the Suez Canal Zone, a kind of free trade zone for Egypt and strategic partners of Egypt, China being the dominant factor, have captured the North African market, and they are dovetailing into Europe. In fact, about 95% of certain exports right there are landing in Europe. Now, it is understood and believed by experts that that plan included taking in West Africa. Now, the implication of all the things I'm trying to say is that if Egypt becomes a manufacturing hub and an industrial hub in Africa, backed by China, then that is going to forever cripple any attempt in Nigeria to manufacture, because it's going to be so easy to export from Egypt. In fact, China has built what you may refer to as, they call it the Road and Belt agenda, from China down to Egypt, and then built a train structure along what we call the Old Silk Road down into Europe. And around the Suez Canal is where all of this is taking place. As I speak to you now, the Tether Group of China has about 68 manufacturing concerns in about 7 by 7 plots of land inside that second Suez Canal, where about 1 million people are employed, and massive manufacturing is going on. And those manufactured products are tagged made in Egypt. You have a fiber optic company that is manufactured, that has opened a $250 million manufacturing concern of fiber optic in the same zone. You have another contract signed with the Chinese government and Egypt to develop what they call the New Cairo, that will be building an airport that is larger than Heathrow and developing their ports and power concerns all around the second Suez Canal, right here in Egypt, our neighbors.
On the soil of Africa?
Yes, on the soil of Africa. So that very soon you are going to have people, instead of going to China to buy products, will soon be going to Egypt to buy products. I think it's the Sahara Desert that has kept them, why they have not been able to extend that train line down to Nigeria. So the point I'm trying to make is that we can no longer look to the east for such strategic partnership now, because Egypt have colonized that. We should not look to the west. And America is just the people to begin to, extend that hand of fellowship, so to speak, to invite them to bring in a bit of their technical expertise to develop competitive, industrial concerns here in Nigeria that would, be a counterpoise to what is going on in Egypt. And we have two comparative advantage and competitive advantage. We have our gas plants. We've been talking about the Nigerian and West Africa gas, network for the past 30 years. Nothing has been done about it. Now, we have the highest reserve of gas in the whole world. We can get the American expertise and develop that gas network across the whole region of the subcontinent, West Africa. We have steel in the massive Ajaokuta steel industry. We can begin massive industrialization using that steel, using our gas to power our industry. We can begin a massive industrialization that will be a counterpoise to Egypt, and then build, by so doing, a strategic partnership with Biden. As I said, he already has 3 Nigerians there in his cabinet. So it shows you, if I understand the language of diplomacy, his body language towards his willingness to work with this strategic partner in the subcontinent. Of course, all the information I've given you here will be at the tip of his finger. Of course. They already have information about all that. So Africa, Nigeria has a huge market. Nigeria is strategically positioned to be, the leaders in Africa. So it should just be in the interest of America and Nigeria especially to have that strategic relationship. So I think that is what should be exciting us here. Okay. All the hula baloo about Trump and his attitude and all of that, we thank God it's over. But going forward, what is going to be Nigerians' excitement in having Joe Biden in place? So
let me turn to Olu Martins now. Now we're talking about what Nigeria could stand to benefit on account of Joe Biden being at the helm at the White House right now. But it turns out that most people who look at the U.S., especially where it has to do with the U.S.-Nigeria relations, they always want to look at 2 things. One, they say America has its eye on our oil. And then 2, they say they want to get the best of our brains from here, whether it's in medicine, it's in the sciences, in whatever it is. I mean, critical sectors, for example. Does Nigeria ever benefit anything, for example? Because a lot of persons seem to think it's only exploitative to the advantage of the United States.
Yes, thank you very much. And let me also, thank ITV for always trailblazing these very topical issues. As a motivational speaker, I'm tempted to say that, after the turmoil peace, you would have a moment of peace, just for people who are going through challenges. After a very turbulent Donald Trump, you are going to have a more reticent and organized Joe. That's how life is anyway. Right. After the darkness, after the storm, there is always going to come a calm. It's just a matter of when that would happen. But it's going to happen, of course. So because I'm a behavioral scientist, I'm a little bit particular, because I hear Chris saying that he doesn't know whether our leaders are thinking that way. And I'm wanting to ask, are our leaders thinking at all? For you to see whether they are thinking in a particular direction. Because it doesn't look like our leaders are thinking, at all, because they are very, very basic things that are not rocket science. For instance, to generate 1,000 megawatts of electricity, there's no big deal about it. It's binary, 0, 1, 0, 1. And smaller nations, so whether they are thinking at all. But you see, I'm also concerned about how the Donald Trump behavior has reflected on not just global leaders, but also on young people who are aspiring to be leaders. I'm bothered about it, all right? Because people think that throwing tantrums. Do not forget that in this state, and without wanting to be political, we had a very turbulent leader in this state, all right? And the era of go and die, the era of thuggery, so after, and then everybody in that administration began to behave like that leader.
So it naturally rubs off.
That's the presidential system of government. It's so influential that the people begin to behave like their leader, especially in Nigeria, where the leader, the governor, the president has the yam, has the knife, has the kerosene, and the whole thing of it. They behave like that. And then you saw people who were, behaving just like him. Soon afterwards, we have, another governor who is more reticent. Now, look at what at that time, if you permit me, what they call Oshomole police and what they call Obaseki police. Look at the way both of them behave. Clearly, because of the behavior of both leaders, some of the one tends to be, combative, one tends to be, attacking, while the other one tends to be more organized. That's why it is important. A leader, a good leader, a bad leader is worse than epidemic. Because epidemic will damage our bodies. We'll fight and get out of it. But a bad leader is not just going to damage our body, it's going to damage our psyche. We're going to continue to think in a particular way because you have a leader who behaves in a particular way. All right, so that's why I am concerned about, we need to demonstrate, and that's what America is trying to do, that there are consequences to certain actions. They don't want you to just fly out there to think that you can take America for a ride. So America is determined that even if you leave, we'll still impeach you, we'll still indict you at the Senate. They're singing Fela's song that even if you die, you died wrongfully. They're trying to tell people that even if you're not them, we have to demonstrate that your actions will not sanction those kind of actions, and that America would never have such an individual before, so that we don't have, look at the kind of guys who invaded the Capitol. I mean, if they were different colored, I would have pinched my skin to think that, usually it's not a West African country. Right. They were scaling fence higher than what we saw in the National Assembly, just because you had a leader who just refused to accept reality, who kept twisting one conspiracy theory or the other and lying, and it bothered me how all of that character could fit into the very mood of what you now call the evangelicals. So I'm thinking about writing a book, How Not to Be a President, or How Not to Be a Leader, because that's what everything that President Donald Trump represented.
Hopefully, I'll get the privilege to write it forward for your book.
But I'm sure How Not to Be. Now let's now look at what you call benefits. Maybe on the lighter side, at least, because the only thing that the other things that we look at, apart from oil and brain drain, is the fact that apart from government benefit, our individuals also benefit. It's in this country that people travel to America for 2 weeks and come back to Nigeria speaking slangs, and they would have to demonstrate to us consciously, all right, that they are Americans. It's in this country that somebody has a British accent and an American accent, under the same. So because we're trying to demonstrate that whatever is America is how to go. We don't copy music that comes from Britain. Musicians copy music that come from America. They tie the bandana. So that's usually the overreaching influence of America, not just in trade but also in culture and in behavioral pattern. People have argued, for instance, because I know Nigeria tried to push the issue of gay, and people are arguing to say, okay, how did America convince us that polygamy is horrible and that gay is acceptable? You see the influence of America. Now let's now talk about the core issues. Let's first of all talk about Nigeria poaching on our talents, and it's just a natural thing, all right? In motivational circle, we say that people go to where they are celebrated and not necessarily where they are tolerated. Right. So people are just going to gravitate naturally to where they think that their competencies and capacities can be harnessed. Every time I'm glued to some of these, America's Got Talent and all that, and I'm so moved to think that a platform is created for somebody who is practically nobody, but it's got capacity, it's got talent. And then from there, you will see sometimes somebody's had a view, 13 million views. America created that kind of
single video.
A single video. So it's a country where the son of a nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody. And that's it's a country of merit, where just on your own individual, as Uyi, the surname is always an issue for me. So
that's okay. Maybe we can deal with that at another point.
As Uyi, you can just go there, and then just as an individual, with your one briefcase, you land in America, and then they say it's God's own country, and then they will look at you, tinker with you, look at the things that you can do outside your paper certificate, and bring out the best out of you. If you look at Abraham Maslow's theory of humanity, it's still basic. People are looking for shelter, people are looking for housing, people are looking for clothing. But if you look at the inverted pyramid, Abraham Maslow's inverted pyramid, people are now begin to look for acceptance. That's why people will stay in the West Zone or in the East Coast where people are shooting guns and they feel safe there because they are known there. So people have come to realize that the quest for validation is almost more, or if not as important as wanting to feed. Right. People want to be recognized. People want to be celebrated. People want to be known. Look at what the president did yesterday. Went to the grave of the unknown soldiers. All right. In Nigeria, people who die for their country, what happens to them? It doesn't take time before their widows are kicked out of the barracks. You know, so you can't blame people who are looking for the best brains. And incidentally, I think that the Nigerian brain was made on the first day of God's creation. But Nigerians don't, the Nigerian leadership does not see it. So everybody will naturally gravitate to a country that says, you know what, come, we have an environment for you to prosper. You see somebody who is struggling with education in Nigeria, struggling. He goes abroad and becomes a first-class citizen. And you are wondering to say, how does it happen? They have a system. It is the system that they are not the ones who attract people. They are not the ones who call our people. They just present the system. Archbishop Idahosa of the blessed memory was said to have said, go accuse him of taking other people's churches member. The guy said, no, I just grow my grass and keep it green. And the Bible says, he leads me beside the green pastures. The sheep would naturally come and feed on green pastures. So that's what the things that, you know, they are doing there. You look at medical doctors. By the time a medical doctor is on strike here, he's struggling to get his dues in Nigeria. He reads on paper, and a country like Canada or America is looking for a medical doctor whom they would pay as much as $100,000 to $150,000 US
per annum,
and even educate you, and then give you a life that is hassle-free. Hassle-free. My younger brother has been around those shores for like 3-4 years. He's already got his citizenship because of the level, the training he has in computer. And the guy says, look, he doesn't say how he will come back to this country. Do you blame me? There's nobody who doesn't want a less turbulent life like we offer in Nigeria. And then the issue of oil. I don't know if the world is talking about oil now. Unfortunately, that is still a mainstay in this country. Even America is planning, is already putting things in place. Tesla, from now till 2025, all the Tesla cars have been bought. So there's none that's available.
Pre-ordered.
Yeah, pre-ordered. So the world is going green. Meanwhile, we are thinking about how to continue to run our economy, you know, with oil. And then the world is shifting, you know, away from there. So I agree with all of the analysis of Chris. Perhaps if he campaigns for president, I may even vote him. The only challenge is that the things that he is saying are far too lofty, are far too complex for the level of simplistic leaders that we have today. The world is a global market, and if you do if you do comparative market analysis, if you are an investor, for instance, you're not going to put your money in a country that is having some level of political crisis because you want your investment to be safe. That's the way the market. So when people say, oh, have you done your SWOT analysis? Have you done this? They're looking for where their investment will be safe. So if you look at America, for instance, all of them, even if they are oil investments, people are now beginning to say, okay, how do we get oil from less turbulent countries that Nigeria, you know, has than the crisis that Nigeria has. So in the final analysis, you don't blame an intelligent country like America. And America is a capitalist country.
They owe you no apologies
for no, pure capitalism. For them is profit. And where they can make profit with less overhead, all right, and maximize their profit is what they are looking for. So if we create loopholes, America, and not just America, but any country that has a head on its shoulder is just going to come in and poach and benefit from the loopholes that we evidently create in Nigeria.
Let's turn it to Chris now. The outgone President Trump had said several unprintable things about Nigeria, and of course he has called us the S-hole country. And he has also said unprintable and very uncomplimentary things about our own leader, our president here, for instance. A lot of persons have said those developments should have nudged us to also take a look at where we are and where we should be heading, and as such, we should be seeing so much difference in critical sectors in this country. It will appear nothing changed, even on account of those reports about the things that former President Trump had said about Nigeria.
What you didn't add is that the criticism became more acerbic after he had a meeting with our president. And even though the press had tried to cover it then, it was reported that he said the president was brain dead. Nobody is going to respect you if you don't respect yourself, if you don't value yourself, and if you don't have self-dignity. And the reason, the only way, the only evidence you give to intelligent people that you have all of this is the effort you are putting in yourself to show that you have something to put on the plate. So if you have a president who cannot even articulate the direction, the thinking of the world, and the thinking of even his continent and his country, sitting with another president, the president of that country is going to go away with the impression that, you know, the quotation you have, I think it was Mahatma Gandhi that brought that quotation, that, well, if a country is being ruled by an idiot, it is just as simply that they are well represented. Because you must have a colony of idiots to produce an idiot president. So the point is, I appreciate America. I'm amazed at them. They've been able to delineate very clearly the difference between the average Nigerian and all the brain power he's speaking about just now, and the system that runs that country. And that's why they have created opportunities for average Nigerians that have the potentials and capacities and competencies to develop, to come and develop there. And Biden has just signatured that by appointing 3 Nigerians, 3 from one country, into his cabinet. Now, those things are not changing because you are running a Fulani colony. You are running a Fulani communal mentality. The things that are values to you and the things that are development to your consciousness, it's not development to the consciousness of those who are ruling us. What is development to their consciousness is the fact that Fulanis overrun and did the Quran in the Atlantic Ocean. I will continue to say this. That is the top priority of your leadership. That they have that dominance over this territory as an extension and the continuation of the jihad. That is the mentality. So what is going to sting you and is going to sting you into action and sting you into reaction, we don't sting them into reaction. Now you see what is going on, in the National Front, for instance, when they hold so-called Supreme Federal Executive Council meeting. Many times it's a monologue. You saw what when the APC had this problem, and leadership was supposed to sit down and discuss a party's fortune. What did we have? We have a president who came in with a communique and read it to them, and the communique became immediately substituted the constitution of the APC and became, up to today, the APC is operating on that communique. The constitution of APC is suspended as far as I'm concerned, as long as that communique is the substituting document upon which APC's national leadership or whatever leadership is existing. Now the point I'm trying to make to you is that when you have such leadership who is so closed in their mind that they sit down in their little mind and decide, and whatever pleases their fancy and pleases their mentality and their religion and pleases their cultural, what do you call it, predisposition. And the moment this is good and this is value, that is what they bring to the world stage. So that is why you have not found those kind of criticism, whether subtle or overt, and whether by action or by reaction, it has not affected anything. And unfortunately, we run a federal system where our president is almost as powerful as the president of America, if by our constitution.
It's not more powerful.
It's not more powerful. So that if you have that kind of concentric leadership, where, almost everything that runs in the component state, in fact, issues from there, you are just tied down. There's just so much to which you can exert your independence, even as a component state, because so many things are under the exclusive list. And you have to go through the federal structure and federal institutions for you to be able to get them working. You generate power in Azura. How many are you able to transmit? You have to feed the national grid, where you have the bureaucracy of people with this kind of thinking. So how are you going to ever generate enough electricity to develop your state? This is the problem. So that is the problem. Until we free ourselves from that stranglehold of a myopic leadership that, you know, I mean, I find it very difficult not to agree with him, whether they think at all. Are you following me? So until we free ourselves from that, you're not going to have development. Because what you are defining as development as a result of your education and your exposure and your developmental thinking is not what they are defining as development. So you actually have, you know, a struggle, a conflict of interest, a conflict of interest of value. So you are thinking, liberalize the system, allow institutions to be built. They are thinking, control the system and move it towards the direction of our sentiment. So you have this conflict, and that's where we are. So whatever the criticisms from Donald Trump, and whatever is going to be the subtle criticisms from the body language of the diplomatic, what do you call it, Democrats, and you are going to have that in the core, in the thinking of every core white man. The black man is a joke. He needs to prove that he's not a joke by beginning to do things that would elicit and earn the respect of the white man. So if he's not saying it overtly, he's going to say it covertly by body language. There's going to be diplomatic language. Obama didn't say it as overtly, but Obama visited Ghana and refused to come to Nigeria.
And then he spoke to us from Accra.
It was an insult to the giant of Africa. But he was diplomatically telling us that we are impostors to claim that we are giants of Africa when we have nothing developmental to show for it. That was what he was telling us. And that Ghana is doing well and trying to cancel off that derogatory term that Africans can do nothing for themselves. Thank God for Rwanda. So the point is, you have to understand this consciousness around the world. You have to sit down and stop being a joke and deceiving yourself. I have discovered in this country that what we call development is well-written policy papers. Once it is well-written and delivered, you see our leader feel this smug sense of satisfaction. As if you get a brain from the university to write a good policy paper for you, it means implementation and it means sustainability. That is what we call development. They just look for one clever man and say, write it. He writes it, they read it, and they feel very smug about it. They bring the cameras, and they feel very smug about it. There is no implementation. There is no execution. So that's what we call development. Once they have done that, then they cover up all the tracks. And anybody that speaks contrary, they clamp down on him and say he's trying to overheat the policy. He's not cooperating. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. Because they don't understand what is development. They believe we should just, paddy thing. Let's just cover up all the things, keep pretending until we are going to have an implosion.
Let's talk about pretense,
Yes.
for example. There's something, Olu Martins, that Joe Biden never pretended about from day one, because he had also said categorically he was going to reverse several of the major policies that Mr. Trump had rolled out while he was at the White House. Just yesterday, for example, we understand he had already started by signing a slew of executive orders to that effect. We understand, again, you have a whole lot more to come. Some of these policies affect Nigeria directly as a country, and then, of course, as a business community. Visa policies in particular, for example. One time we had what they call the drop box, which means if you had a visa that had been issued to you, maybe it expired, in a bid to renew, you could just drop off your passport for a renewal, without necessarily having to show up physically. But all of those policies changed while Trump was there. Let's not even talk about the ban on Muslim countries, for example. How much of work do you see Mr. Biden having to do along these lines as far as policies are concerned?
I think that President Joe Biden has inherited a mess.
And that's scary, isn't it?
Because you have COVID-19 on the one hand ravaging America. I don't know what the count is, because I'm told that an American dies every 7 minutes. And I'm sure that we've done over 7 minutes here, so I don't know what the count is. But America has hit the historical 400,000 deaths.
And counting.
From one ailment. not from heart attack, not from cancer, not from natural deaths, not from heartbreak, the ones that died because their girlfriend broke their heart, not from emotional, just that one. So you can imagine. Now, of course, the man wants to sign an executive order to stop the building of the Mexico Wall.
Yeah.
And a plethora of them. Because what was Trump doing? Trump was being the typical white man. And like he said, typical white man. Amazingly, is that Trump still has a large chain of people who fanaticize him, if there's any such word, who idolize him. You saw when he was getting to the Air Force One yesterday.
Right.
Or when he was getting down the Marine One.
The Marine One, yeah.
And then made his speech getting to the Air Force. And you still see people who were chanting over. That's because Trump is the typical white supremacist. That's who he is. That's why the things that he does is resonating with a couple of nations. All right. So I mean, it's with a couple of people. So President Joe Biden, first of all, must cleanse the Huggian table. Amazingly, is that Trump didn't. I like him for one thing, though, because it wasn't all bad. He didn't pretend about who he was and the things that he loved. Trump didn't pretend about it. The only thing I couldn't understand is how he succeeds in proclaiming Christianity with all of these absurdities.
Because you say Republicans and the evangelicals, they go hand in hand.
I agree with you, but you see, by their fruit, you know them, not by the things that they say. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And there's a fundamental ingredient missing in the Trump administration is that the guy did not show empathy. In leadership, there is the task people-centered leader or the people task-centered leader. The first one wants the task done. Break your back if you like. When you deliver the goods, then we can tell you sorry. The second one is concerned about the goose that lays the golden egg. That's why Brian Tracy, for instance, if your wife gives birth, she will go on maternity leave 4 or 5 months. You, the man, we go on paternity leave for at least 2 weeks. Because there's no point in you being at work and then your mind, they are calling you, oh, baby is this, baby is that. So stay with your newborn baby for at least 2 weeks. That's empathy in leadership. As far as Donald Trump was concerned, he didn't care. What he wanted done was the things that he wanted done. In spite of whose ox was God. And and very similar to what is happening in Nigeria. Donald Trump constantly was pandering to a section of the country. We need to achieve an agenda. That is what that agenda is. And we must show that this race is superior to this race.
And the bulk of his base comes from there.
During the Capitol invasion, there were no colored people there. Not Hispanics, not Indians, not
African Americans.
No, none of them. So the core of them were the guys who pander to the Ku Klux Klans, all those white supremacist idea. It's not very different from what is happening in Nigeria. That's why America had become so polarized. So President Joe Biden, first of all, must try to unify the country. So I was glad when I saw Ted Cruz there. I was glad when I saw someone. I was glad when I read that, when I saw that 17 Republicans.
Even though Ted Cruz has become more controversial now as far as American politics is concerned than ever.
But it's okay. Even like I said, if you have a president that is cantankerous and confrontational, you will have lieutenants that are the same. It's just natural. If you have a president that is amiable, you will have lieutenants that are amiable. So Ted Cruz is the way he is today. Although it has always been in him, but he is finding expression because he finds a president whose ideologies resonate with his own. Two cannot work together except they agree. Ted Cruz is not a newcomer to the Senate, but the Ted Cruz that we are seeing now is a Ted Cruz that has found an ally in a president that leads a system and an ideology that resonates with his own. So you will never ever know the kind of individuals that you have until you have a leader that gives expression. It's not amazing that in spite of some of the things that are happening in this country, there are Southerners, ditto Yorubas, and Igbos who are clapping for this president for whatever reason, either for their own parochial, political agenda, or for their own financial, gains, whatever it is, there are people who are clapping, for him. And then there are people who actually are satisfied with what Mr. President, as far as Nigeria is concerned, there are people who are satisfied with the ethnic coloration that he gives his administration. There are people who like it because the thing that he does aligns with their own kind of thinking. So I do not envy President Joe Biden at all. In fact, somebody was telling me yesterday that he suspects that Joe Biden is from Ofa because he's Bidemi. They are now calling Biden. We add humor, to everything that we do in this part of this country, and that's because he has become the president of America. Right. If he had become one notorious prisoner, we will not say that Biden is Bidemi. We would have denied him. So he's coming to become America's president when America's traditional foes had become America's allies. I found it completely ridiculous to see President Donald Trump eulogizing the North Korean or Putin. Everybody whom we felt that were terrorists, everybody who felt that were overbearing, were President Donald Trump's friend. That's because that's the kind of person that he is. So people who behave like him are his role models. I didn't now know who is the role. I didn't know who the mentor or the mentee is between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Because every time I saw Donald Trump relating with Vladimir Putin, he related with Vladimir Putin as though he admired, Vladimir Putin. And like we say in this country, when I grow up, I would like to be like you. Like you. So that unifying force. How do you now bring the, now America to a certain saying 70 million Donald Trump voters, 70 million of Donald Trump. In this country, we are the 12 million Buhari voter, we are the 12 million Buhari voter. So how does he unify the core supremacists? How does he have a one Nigeria? Because what the fourth line that Donald Trump has established has run very deep. 4 years of a particular level of thinking is going to be wiped away by some executive orders. Unfortunately, legislation cannot legislate morality. Legislation cannot legislate culture. Culture is stronger than legislation. And what the president had tried to do is to unearth a culture of racism. So beyond legislation and executive orders, the man must now overtly demonstrate. Like he has called, I told that he's called a Nigerian young girl that contributed to his campaign. So he must begin to demonstrate, not just to America, to the world, that he is detribalized, he is non-racist, he is religious person. His executive orders will not do all of that. He must demonstrate it from his actions that he is a lot different from Donald Trump.
Let's just remind our viewers that we're going to start taking calls in a minute. Of course, the number will be on your screen, so you can call and make your contributions to this conversation that we're having this morning about the U.S. President Biden, who is now at the helm of affairs at the White House, and what it means for Nigeria and by extension for global politics. What leaders have been calling to congratulate some have had to do theirs on social media, particularly on Twitter. The whole idea is to say, look, we now have America back. For many countries have this back and forth engagement with the U.S. on whatever front it may be. But we are especially looking at how it affects Nigeria as a country, even though, just as Chris had said a while ago, that ordinarily America is far off from Nigeria. But because of the fact that, amongst other things, the world has now become a global village, you cannot take away the fact that at some point, several things that happen in the U.S., several decisions taken in the U.S. will directly or indirectly, to varying degrees, rub off on Nigeria. But please just know that once you make your call, you have to turn down the volume on your TV set. We're taking a break now, and then we're back shortly. Stay with me.